What's going on, y'all? It's your boy, Kuya. This is the NRW, where nerds rule the world. I'm so excited today because I'm talking to some fellow creatives. Well, one fellow creative, as a matter of fact, USA Today bestselling author, Jessica Cage. You see her on the screen. She has a brand new book, I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend. I know all my board game folks, I know my young romance folks, especially my fantasy friends. They're like, "Oh, what is this about? Like, let's go." So, welcome, Jessica. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Again, like I told you, I'm trying to give you energy. That's as a creative, I know how it is to, promote and talk about our work. But it's something we got to do sometimes because maybe there's some of us that aren't all about, like, they just want to do the work and let the work speak for itself. But there's also some of us that are like, okay, let's go. So, but it also can be a chore. And so thank you for sharing your time. Let me give you some space to share. And let's talk all about summoning demon boyfriends. Where did this gem of an idea start with you? I guess is where I would like to kick it off. You've been writing for quite some time. From what I read, you wanted kind of a departure of some of just the heavy themes you were writing right before you started writing this one. I know as a fellow person of color, I think I can feel and understand what you mean by that, because girl, especially in today's world right now. So yeah, much of a relief, and how much did it help to maybe counter all of that with putting this book together?
Oh yeah. Well, first, thank you for having me. It was, I kind of got tired, not tired, but just like I had a lot of readers messaging me about like my last book that came out before this one, like, I'm on chapter 3 and I'm crying. And it's like, oh no. And like you said, the world is already filled with so much like heaviness. And when I first started writing, I wanted to write books that gave you an escape from all of that. But especially once you start like really exploring fantasy, those themes kind of seep in there, But I've always had a love for a rom-com. Like, it's been a thing for me since I was a little girl. Like, give me a rom-com, like Julia Roberts on the screen, popcorn, let's go. So I was like, you know what? I want to have a little bit more fun, but I didn't want to completely depart from fantasy because that's like my first love as well. And it just so happens that right now people are enjoying that type of writing in fantasy. Like, the romantasy is becoming more popular. So I'm like, I don't want to do true romance because, happily ever after and all that, I guess, but like, I want to have fun with it. And so I do this series of videos on TikTok and Instagram called my Stitch Prompts, where I will stitch a video from another creator and then just write a little story, based on what I saw, like what this would be if I had to continue the story. Oh. And I did a couple that were like witches and demons, and people were really like, okay, so where's the book? Like, give it to us. So it kind of started there, the spark of creation. And once I started kind of teasing what I wanted to do, readers were like, yes, please, we need this. And luckily, because it's always daunting to switch to a new like style of writing or subgenre of writing, because you never know if your current readers are going to be on board with you. But so far, yay, they all seem to like it.
That's wonderful. You got to be able to flex a little bit, because if you get burning down, and it can, I know I hit writer's block quite a bit, so you got to figure out how to tackle that. And to me, exploring something different can help you immensely to get out of that. So yeah. You were doing this Stitch Fix amazingness. I got to check that out. Creating that. So through that spurned the idea. Then once you got it, like how long did it take to write this? When did you start? And give me all those kind of nitty gritty details, because there's a lot of us that, especially people that watch me like myself, are fellow creatives. So we always love, the process.
Yeah. So the actual first draft took me about 3 weeks to write. Like, it wasn't, 6 months, a year. It was very much like, I'm a pantser. So once I sit down and my fingers start moving, we're off to the races. So typically a first draft takes me about a month. And then of course there's a couple more months of like tweaking and revisions and letting people read it and give feedback. Like, that part takes a few more months. But I started my marketing for this book a year before release. Like I started kind of peppering things and teasing and kind of building the hype because we don't like to market. Like creators, like I just want to create. Like I don't want to do all that. But I realized like, okay, this is going to need a bigger push for me because it is a little different than what I'm typically giving my readers. So we started, or I started marketing it a year prior to release. I announced the title like in August of last year. I released the cover in December of last year. Like it was a slow rollout, but it really worked because it did. The type of marketing I was doing was more humorous and just kind of preparing the readers for what was coming. And it worked. So yay, you know.
I love that. I love that. And it would help. It helps things along a little bit, right?
It does.
So I love the nerdiness of this. So I want to kind of speak to that. And, and if we could share a little bit about the story without spoiling for the people that we want to pick up the book. I accidentally summoned a demon boyfriend. Can we talk about, just that nerdiness a little bit? Were you like you said fantasies in your realm, which is very nerdy, but like we have kind of the character itself, from what I read, the last amongst the friends to have like, I guess, a special someone in her life. So she departs to her books and summons a demon boyfriend. That's, quick in a nutshell, but I'm sure you can elaborate a lot better than I can.
Yeah, it's a very like nerdy turn of events to be like, you know what, I'm turning to my books because the world sucks, And so Rayna, she goes home after a series of really unfortunate dates. She's supposed to be hanging out with her friends, but her friends stood her up and I'm just going to drink a little wine. And she's like, oh, I remember this book I was reading. It had a spell where the main character got her perfect man. So she does the spell. She didn't think it was going to work. And she didn't do it with it. So she's like, oh, it's just a little silly, goofy thing. But it worked. It did work. And that's how she ends up waking up the next day with Matisse in her home. Like, what do you want? Like, why am I here? And she's like, I don't know why you're here. So it starts them off on this adventure of like trying to break the bond that the spell has created between them. But of course, along the way, they start to question if they really want to break the bond. Like, do we really want to part ways or should we just kind of hang out together?
Awesome. Is this like a first in a series? Or are we going to have like more demon boyfriends happening? Or do we wrap it up? If you can say that. If you don't.
First in a collection of standalones. So I'm not doing anything else. People keep, when's part 2 for Rayna and Matisse? There is no part 2 like that.
Great. So I love that. Because sometimes, we do that and we're like, oh, I wanted more. As you know, obviously from what you've already got. So, okay, great.
So
great.
we announced the title for the next book a week ago. It's called I Accidentally Hooked Up with a Vampire. So, same vein of rom-com fantasy vibe, different set of characters though.
That is awesome. I love all of that. That's just hilarious. Oh my gosh, I had something at the top of my head, but I guess I'm gonna go to this. I lost it. I had another question, but what I loved when I was like even reading about you, I'm a father as well. I know you are a parent, and you kind of wanted, that's kind of what spurned your writing, is to also just kind of show more what we're doing for the world and with our kids and everything. How has that been, years into this journey? Are they old enough to read any of this stuff? Do they critique it, or do you keep it, away from their eyes? I'm sure this is a little bit more adult, so you kind of, But how has that been? If we can talk on that reflection of a parent in this business, because my daughter, she's 16, and like she's like, oh, Dad, you're getting ready to talk to that person, and so it's kind of fun in that vein, but also it's sometimes, what are you even talking about? So I'm curious for you and your journey.
Yeah, no, I've always made it a balance where I didn't separate motherhood and authorhood. Like it's the same. My son has been a part of the journey. Like even when he was a toddler, he would be cheering me. I'd be like, okay, if mom hits 500 words today, we get to go to the park, right? So it was like,
that's awesome.
We would have gone to, even if I didn't hit that word count, we would have gone to the park. But like, it was just a way to make him feel, he's like, did you get it? Yeah. We would go to the park. If I didn't hit, I'm not gonna be like, well, I didn't make it. We're not going, But ever since he was a kid, like a little, and he could first start to understand what I was doing, I made him a part of it. For my cleaner books, like not all of my stories have spice in them. He's helped me with like battle scenes because he's really into anime and all of in gameplay. So I'll let him read, battle scenes and like, does this make sense? Like, how do I make this stronger? And he'll be like, well, this character should definitely not be over here when this is happening. And like, he'll help me restructure. I recently started doing like some middle grade short stories for anthologies. He's like my beta reader now for that. Like he'll read it first before anyone else and give me feedback. My son has an extreme talent far beyond my own when it comes to like literary, like writing and just the understanding of story structure. But that comes from him being, in this world. I used to take him to book events with me. He would buy books and be reading them on the, car ride home. So it's been something that he has kind of developed his own passion for. So it actually becomes something that we share, which is really cool because he just turned 14. So very soon there's going to be little we have in common, but I know that this thing is something that we do. He even has his own platform on Quora where he's like writing stories and he has an audience who like loves him and uplifts him.
Wow.
I didn't even know that was a thing. He just shared it with me like last year. I was like, what? Like, and then he's sharing me his material. I'm like, who wrote this? He's like, I wrote it. I was like, what?
That's awesome. I love that. that.
Yeah. So it's been really fun and just, I don't know, inspiring to have shared this with him and then see him kind of coming into it. So obviously he has other interests that are far outside of writing, but like that we have this to share. And I'm like, I'm so happy that I didn't try to compartmentalize my life when it came to this because he sees the work, and he sees the payoff and he's been so much a part of it. Like he's literally on the payroll now as my stock boy because I direct sell books so people can buy books directly from me. And he's like opening the boxes, stocking them. I stocked the shelves wrong and he got so mad at me. I didn't put the books. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm sorry. I was just trying to help, So it's just so good to see him become empowered with his own creative processes and also just be a part and understand how the business works from an early stage. So
I love that. I picked up on that when I was reading about you because everything you just said, like I wanted an indirect way of kind of like getting her involved with like what I'm doing. So she can just see that, and being self-empowered and being creative and just all of that. I started off as a dancer way back when and as an actor, and I still dabble in that. And she's like a dancer and all that. And she kind of found her niche there. But just I love, like, it's a way to do it, have them get involved without them thinking we're doing that too in a way.
Yeah.
But I just love that. So I gleaned on that.
In like little lessons about business and finance and stuff without it being like, haha,
Yeah. And they're also, like you said, they're this generation, so they know what this generation is looking for. So like when I try to find guests and everything, she's like, what do you think of this person? Because that person will hit, I know what I like, but what does this generation like?
Yeah. So. I've never done middle grade and I wrote the first story. He was like, okay, mom, I have some notes. And I was like, I felt like I was meeting with the editor, like a professional editor. He had a red pen and he was like circling and like, this should become earlier. You don't need this section at all. I was like, okay.
I love that.
He knows what he's doing. Like he's actually entering high school as a literary scholar. So whatever you say,
let's go, mama. You did your job there. I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I accidentally summoned and deepened boyfriend, y'all, is out and available right now. Please go check it out, as well as the rest of this new set of books that are going to be coming. I knocked up, or I hooked up with a teenage vampire, or no, teenage. Ooh, don't say that.
Oh, no.
I hooked up with a vampire. Oh my gosh. I'm getting crazy over here. Again, it's been a long day, but this just sounds super dope. Why young romance, I guess, way back when, or just, blending the two, just, again, you got into it, you wanted to show something with your kid, but also just follow your own dreams. I'm sure specifically, especially in the regards of the type of material you're writing, but why these genres and why explore these genres? And was there like a lack of what you're seeing? I know for myself, I love the representation, especially these two beautiful people here on this cover right now. Tell me,
fantasy, sci-fi, like all of that came from my mother. My mother was the first like blurred I ever knew, but more for film and television. And then my grandmother was the book nerd in the house. So you just blend them together and you get me, you know what I mean? Like I'm writing, and my mom used to have sci-fi Saturdays. We would sit together and watch all the sci-fi fantasy, I would leave when it got to like the true horror, and I leave that to her and my brother because I'm a scaredy cat. But that's where it came from. But again, it's the representation. Like, I love these stories, but I'm not seeing me. You know what I mean? It's something missing. And I'm like, I want to be, a vampire princess. I want to be the one chasing or not chasing, but fighting aliens and all that. Like, I want to see me doing that. So when I actually first wrote my first book, it was about Alexa, who learned that she was next in line to be queen of an alien race of vampires. And it was kind of my answer to Twilight, because as much as I'm a Twilight, don't get me wrong, love it. But I hated the way Bella was treated by the men that surrounded her. Like, you don't know what you like. You don't know this, like constantly like discounting her ability to choose for herself. So I wrote this series where the men are there, but they're just like cheerleaders, like, you go, girl. But the women are the ones that's really, because that's the
women rule the world. Y'all keep it together. And y'all are about to save our world. Come on.
Listen. So like, that's the household, that's the life, or the family dynamic that I grew up in. Like, the women were making choices and doing things and getting stuff done. And the men were just like, hey, whatever you say, like, you got it. So I was like, I had younger cousins at the time that were like really getting into fantasy, and Twilight was the thing. And I was like, oh, no. So I'm like, how do I create a story that shows women at different stages of coming into their own power? Like, we don't wake up Superwoman. We have to kind of work and grow and become that person. But like, it's 5 main characters, and they're all at a different stage of like womanhood, right? And so that's where it started, like trying to, of course, explore the genre that I love, but represent myself and other Black women in all different stages and facets that I could. There are a couple of my titles that are like centered around men, where the man is the main character, but not very many.
Equal opportunity, but there's enough material out there, so it's all good. They're gonna make it themselves,
Yeah,
I'll speak for the rest of the men out here. They're gonna do it, but we need more of this material. Awesome. So again, I love it. Who's the artist on this book right here? Can we get some props to your cover artist?
S.J. Fowler, the Night Witchery is her business. I also put on all of my books, on the inside cover, you'll find the editor, the cover designer, because I know I can't give them enough business to keep them afloat. So if you love it, go check out the copyright section. It'll have all of the information there for you.
Love that. Definitely. It takes a village, y'all, to create amazing material, and we support our villages around here.
Absolutely.
So that is super beautiful. So we have, so I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend out and available now. And you said you just finished up. When can we expect the I Hooked Up with a Vampire book?
So I haven't actually put out the release date yet. I'm going to do the same kind of like slow roll out, build the anticipation for this one. But it is coming soon.
All right. Are there other themes? Can we hint? Did you announce anything for the consecutives after that yet? Like, are there werewolves? Are there?
I have not.
Okay,
but people have already been making some very like good guesses about where we're going with this.
Aliens.
Yeah, so it's like there's a common thread throughout the books, but they're not like, Rayna won't know the next MC. Like they won't know each other. They won't actually interact. But there is a common thread using the book that she read her spell from that will go throughout all of the books.
Awesome.
So we're going to explore. I'm gonna announce it all coming soon, but yeah, I'm trying to be better about being quiet about things.
I understand, girl.
Like, my team smacks me on the hand a lot. Like, you weren't supposed to say that. And I'm like, oh, but they asked. Like,
hey, well, I can't lie. As a PR person, I'm gonna try and work that out of you. But also, I want additional content. So please come back and let's chat about the next joint.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, a pleasure chatting with you. How can my people check you out, follow you, subscribe? And then I'll also, for y'all listening that might be driving right now as well, I'll have it in the description so you can check it out there and click on those links. But for those that can remember all that, how can they check you out?
You can find me on my website, jessicacage.com, or on any platform, social media, at JCageAuthor.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. Do you do any appearances or events or anything like that? Do you travel like the con show circuit? We just had BlurredCon here. I'm in the
Yeah.
DC area, and we'd love to see you at BlurredCon. I know I
Yeah.
part of the organizers, so we'd love to have you. Where
So
can we catch
I
you?
tried to get into BlurCon, but I think I was just too late with everything. They were like, no. And I was like,
Girl,
okay, sorry.
hit me up. I'll get you there. I want you there.
Listen, look, thank you. Yeah, I'll be at Atlanta Black Writers Weekend next weekend. I'll be at Atlantic Comic Con and Dragon Con and Boozy Book Fest in August. And I have a few more places coming up in Atlanta and in other places. I was just in DC for Imaginarium in June. So on my website, there is an events tab where you can see all of the places where I'll be in the future. I'm loading everything up as soon as I get confirmation. So
Wonderful. Well, Jessica, it is a pleasure chatting with you. Congrats on the new book. I accidentally summoned a demon boyfriend. Everybody go check it out. All of her links will be in the description. All those events she'll be at, go check her out. Say hi. Say you saw her on the NR and then BlurCon Cats. My team, yo, let's bring Jessica next year. It's gonna be in March next year. So if you're
perfect.
available,
Yeah.
let's put that on the calendar. But thank you so much for your time, Jessica. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
You too. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Everybody, Jessica Cage, USA Today, best-selling author of I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend, available now. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. All right, Jessica, there's a cut. And then I'm going to count us in and we'll get to having some fun. All right, here we go in a 1, 2, 3.